In this video, we're assembling the Baking Santa and Mrs. Claus pop-up cards. So I have glued the panels on my base already. And now I am going to prep the base. You're going to fold on all the score lines as I'm folding it. Okay, and then we're going to glue this 1/4 inch space down to the inside of the card. You have to hold it just a few seconds because it is a little bit thick. And then the glue pops through the score lines. Okay, so then we're going to set that aside and let that dry. The back insert is a tree cookie, so let's go ahead and assemble it. The base piece of this tree, the pink here, is 2 layers, but I have already glued them together and dried them under my mat. So this is 2 layers. One is shorter than the other. That's on purpose. You want to use a good sturdy cardstock for this piece because it is taller. You don't want it to be floppy. So you do need to use a good weight cardstock. I use AC cardstock. So just make sure it has a little bit of weight to it. And we just glue this right in place. So that is the back layer. The front and back layers are relatively easy. It's the Santa and the Mrs. Claus that have a lot of detail. So on this front piece, we have a rolling pin. It's 2 layers. And then we're just going to glue this right here to the base. Then the mixing bowl is 2 layers. This is a pretty thin strip here, so having a fine tip bottle or some other way to get glue on that small space will be helpful. And then we're going to glue this one to the base. So our front layer is finished. Okay. Now, they are both holding a gingerbread. So I'm just going to glue this here, and you just want to kind of center them in there. If you want a face on your gingerbread man, you're going to have to draw one because he was just too small to have anything cut. I'm going to go ahead and do both of them, both of the gingerbread men. Now these are two separate cards. They are sold separately. So Santa, we're going to start by gluing the skin layer to this black layer. This is his shoes and his eyes, the black layer. Okay, just like so. We're going to take this red layer and go ahead and put his apron on just like this. Just line it up side to side. Okay, and then he has his arms. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck them. Nope. That doesn't work on him, it only works on her. So I'm going to go ahead and build his face. So let's put his hat on. Now it looks like he's standing with his arms behind his back. Go ahead and assemble his hat. I think that I want to pop up this top piece. Yep. And then I'm going to glue it in place. Now there are some small pieces in here, and so let's glue on his mustache. And then he has a little nose. So I'm going to use my pen from my glue bottle. It should be sticky enough, yep, to grab that and put that into place. And then he has little eyebrows too, which, looking at him, if you didn't want to mess with this small piece, you could leave it off. But it does add to his character. So I'm going to put them on. There he is. And I think I'm going to pop up the gingerbread man, but I have to cut the piece. And then you'll notice that you can just line this up like this with the arm. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue on his hand and like what would be his elbow, I guess. And I'm just going to line that up. Do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to hold it just a second because it's gluing my finger to it. My fingers are sticky. There. So there he is. And then glue him to this base. Okay. And now we'll work on the Mrs. Claus. So because her base is red, those will wind up being her lips. And her eyes are these two circles. So you need to glue these onto the back first. Then she can glue to the base. Okay. Now her apron is 2 pieces. It's a lacy apron. So this just glues here. And then we're gonna just line it up to the top and side to side. And again, I think I'm going to pop up my gingerbread man. Because that glue was pulling off, I put a little bit of glue on it. And I'm just going to glue them right here. And then for her, I am just going to glue her arm under her sleeve. So I'll pop it right under there. And just kind of put it over like that. So again, I'm putting the glue on the top so that I can put this under her sleeve. looks like she's holding it. And then I'm going to glue her dress into place. Okay. And I'm thinking I might need to try to glue this hand down just a little because I don't want it to get stuck when it opens and closes. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue there and hold that down. I think that one should be okay. Now for her hat, I am going to pop it up like I did on Santa. I should have cut her hair gray so that it stands out a little more, but I cut it in white. I kind of wish I would have done gray. And then we're just going to glue this right on the base. Now the baking Mrs. Claus does have a pair of glasses. So we're just going to glue these on. Just going to use a little bit of glue. That's so she can read her recipe book. I'm going to add a bow. And now the Mrs. Claus is done. Okay. So for our base, we're going to pull this in. You're going to notice that one of them has a slit right on the fold. That is the top. Only one of them has that. The mixing bowl and rolling pin are the front layer. Mrs. Claus is the center. And then our tree cookie is the back. Okay, goes together in that order. Let's pull these out. Start back here. And we're gonna slide this through from the top into and through the bottom. Hey baby. That's my new cat Dallas. I took in a stray. I found her in the park, brought her home, and she was pregnant, and we had 8 kittens. We have found homes for 4 of them, so I still have 4 kittens. And she's a very chatty cat. She's just come down and decided to start talking. So we fold this through the bottom and then turn it over, and I'm gluing this tab to the bottom of the card. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing with the mixing bowl and rolling pin. I'm going to slide it through the top, down through the bottom, fold the tab up, and glue it to the bottom. Just like that. Okay. We're going to fold it back over. And now we're going to put our Mrs. Claus here in the center. Slide her in. This one glues differently. This time we're going to fold this bottom piece up and we're going to glue it just to the tab that's on the Mrs. Claus. So you want enough glue to hold it down, but not so much that it oozes out, because it will glue your card shut and you don't want that to happen. Then we're going to lift this tab up at the top and do the same thing. We're going to glue it down to the Mrs. Claus. Hoping we didn't use too much glue. And then you can test it by just pushing up on it and just making sure this top part lifts when you push up. Okay. Now, you're going to leave this top flap down. You're going to fold this bottom flap up. We're going to glue these to the side. So we are only going to apply glue here to the tabs. Being careful not to do too much. We're going to fold this right over. We're going to glue these tabs together. Now there's extra bulk here in the center, so you just have to take your time and make sure your glue gets really stuck down. And then I just like to check my card. Make sure that when I push it up, everything goes up the way it's supposed to. We're good. So then we're going to close it up. There we are. And that is the baking Mrs. Claus. Now, I will put together the Santa just so that you can see one more time how it goes together. And again, I always just like to slide my pieces in. Sometimes when I get ahead of myself and think, oh no, I know I will do it right. If I don't do that, I put them together in the wrong order or backwards. Okay, so I'm sliding this piece all the way through the top, down through the bottom, flipping it over, folding the tab up, and gluing it to the bottom of the card. Okay. Turn it back over. Put in the mixing bowls. I'm going to make sure it's upside down because the card, just folds over, so then that's the front. And we're going to fold this tab up and glue this to the bottom. Just like that. Okay, now Santa goes in the center. He's the same color, so it's going to be a little bit harder to see, but I am going to fold this bottom tab up, and I am only going to glue it to the tab. Okay, just to this tab. We're going to do the same thing to the top. Only glue that tab to the Santa. Check it, make sure everything's good. Fold this bottom tab up, leave the top tab down. Now we're going to glue it shut. And there we have it. So let's take our time to get this stuck down good. close it up. And there is our baking Santa. So there's Santa and Mrs. Claus. Thank you for joining me.